We're really excited to be here with you today in our presentation of increasing publishing rate and author satisfaction through AI-powered digital editing. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces and many new faces. I'm probably a new face for many of you as well. This is my first ever SSP conference, so I'm really excited to be here. And I'm excited to get to talk with each of you today and meet later in the conference as well. Today's format for our discussion is going to start out with us presenting a little bit about our AI tool at Research Square, and then its practical use in 2 pilots that we've run with Springer Nature. After that, we'll open up the floor to questions from you all and others. And so if you do have questions throughout our presentation, just save that to that period and we'll be happy to talk about it then. Before we get started, I'd love to introduce myself. I'm Beth Ann Dorn. I'm Director of Product Marketing at Research Square. And this is...
Hey, I'm Greg Kloiber. I'm a product manager at Research Square for the digital services, which includes digital editing and digital translation.
I'm sure many of you have heard of AJE before, but if you're new to it, I wanted to break down a little bit of what the relationship is with Research Square Company to AJE. So AJE is part of Research Square. It's one division, and there's also another division called Research Square. AJE stands for American Journal Experts. It's been around for nearly 2 decades, and it started out as a professional services company to help researchers who are wanting to get published edit and prepare their paper for publication. In 2017, we spun off another portion of the company called Research Square, which is the largest multidisciplinary preprint platform. And together, the 2 of them form Research Square Company. Today, we're going to be talking about digital editing as part of AJE. So let's do that. AJE has a set or suite of digital tools. Our flagship tool being a digital editing software, which is AI powered. And we've been working on this over the last, I would say 5 years, so ahead of the AI curve, and we continue to improve on it year over year. We also have our digital translation, but we won't be talking about that today. So the reason we built digital editing is that we wanted to create a tool that helped improve acceptance rates for authors. And for editors, reduce the time to publication, as well as also for authors. For editors themselves as well, to streamline our editorial workload, and for all journals to help that author experience be improved. One of the things that we've noticed is that as journals have adopted our digital editing software, we've seen that author satisfaction has increased, and with that, brand loyalty. Authors returning to publish again and again. And that, of course, allows for spreading the good news via word of mouth and attracting a broader author pool. So there's no secret that there is a plethora of AI tools out there now. In fact, I would say one of every breakout session in this conference is dedicated to talking about AI tools. You're in one right now. One of the questions we hear most frequently is, well, what's the difference? Why is your tool, why is AJE digital editing any different than anything else that's out there? And part of that is what sets one AI power tool apart from another is what the AI is trained on, so the data set itself. For AJE digital editing, it's been trained on millions of edits by professional editors from a set of research publication over the last 2 decades. It's the largest data set of scholarly publishing for any AI tool that's available. The other thing to note too is, unlike other tools that are out there, we've trained our AI on both papers before being edited and after, so that machine learning understands the types of edits that are being made, the quality, and what is an acceptable edit for publication. All that leads to AI having AJE digital editing having the highest level of accuracy with editing, with 3 times more changes with up to 95% accuracy. That's kind of unheard of within scholarly publishing AI tools. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned it before, is that it's so fast because we have such a large data set, and because we've been able to refine it over the last 5 years or so, we've seen it edit and make suggestions faster and faster, and it minimizes the time that editors or researchers need to edit their paper to get it ready for publication. Let's get a little bit more into the types of edits themselves. So our machine learning model has been trained on millions of edits by over 1,000 plus PhD editors who represent advanced degrees in every single academic field. That means every single area of study that we found available, with over 1 million plus authors that have been served through professional editing and now through digital editing and HAE. And each of those topics are field specific. And so we find that our edits or suggested edits are more accurate, again, than others that are out there. With that said, with that overview, I'm gonna hand it off to Greg to talk more specifically about how we differentiate ourselves and then the pilot with Springer Nature.
Thanks, Beth Ann. So a question we often get is, what about ChatGPT? Or any other large language model that are all the rage right now? You know, it's actually a lot more than you might think. ChatGPT is like using a monkey wrench as opposed to a scalpel. Both have their purposes. ChatGPT is trained on a broad range of text, and the HAE tool is a one-of-a-kind, unique AI trained on, as Beth Ann mentioned, edited and unedited manuscripts, academic manuscripts. You really can't get better data than that. And, excuse me, you know, when you read about companies wanting to keep their data away from OpenAI, this is the data set. This is the kind of data set that they're talking about. ChatGPT hasn't been trained on what's been a good edit or a poor edit. And this is why, the HAE tool is so accurate. While ChatGPT can create, fabricate, and edit text, it's based on general knowledge. The HAE digital editing tool is based on both a unique AI and rules made by and written by academic editors. We also have a dedicated team of digital quality specialists who constantly provide feedback to improve the tool. And here are some of the other reasons the tool is different. You know, text won't get flagged as AI generated by our tool, unless of course you started with AI generated text. You can't accept or reject the changes that ChatGPT provides, like you can in Word with track changes. With HAE digital editing, your authors are in control, and they might even learn about proper grammar and English in the process. Formatting is retained by the secure and privacy-minded tool as well. And lastly, you don't need to know how to prompt the digital editing. The UI is simple. You simply upload your paper, choose a style of English, which is American or British, and then just a few minutes, your entire paper is edited and ready for you. So, by the way, this will be provided as a PDF or a download sometime later after this event. So if you want to see this in more detail. So we've told you a lot about HAE's digital editing tool, but let's talk about its effects and how it affects research and researchers. There are 31 million STEM researchers and students worldwide whose primary language is not English. 55% of Chinese authors are drafting their manuscript in Chinese with aspirations of being published in an English journal. And that's a lot of science that can get missed due to poor English quality in their submitted manuscripts. In fact, 12% of SciRep rejections are due to language-related issues. 7 to 8% of Springer Nature manuscripts are flagged by language-related issues as well. And this leads me to the largest circle here, which came out of our journal pilot with Springer Nature. There was a 14% higher acceptance rate for our Chinese authors who used the HAE digital editing on a trial of over 500 manuscripts. So let's talk about those pilots. We partnered with Springer Nature to conduct 2 pilot programs using HAE's digital editing tool, a journal pilot and a books publishing pilot. In the journal pilot, we wanted to explore if the low language scores of manuscripts would be improved by using the digital editing tool, and in return, lead to higher acceptance rate. And as I just mentioned, it did, especially with our Chinese researchers. With our follow-up books pilot, we partnered to provide a free benefit to Springer Nature authors in order to expedite the editing process for both them and the Springer Nature editorial team. The journal pilot consisted of 500 manuscripts with low language scores as determined by our LAT, or language assessment tool. And that was run on all the papers at the beginning of the pilot. This language assessment is a deep learning AI tool model that is capable of assessing the English quality of academic manuscripts and outputs a score between 0 to 10. The manuscripts were then submitted to the journal Scientific Reports, which is an open access journal publishing rigorously peer-reviewed research from across the natural sciences, psychology, medicine, and engineering. The papers were submitted prior to using the digital editing tool. They had an acceptance rate of about 28%, but that increased to 42% the second time around after using the AJE digital editing tool. And we believe that this increase in article acceptance is due to the tool helping reviewers see the value of the research itself as the language of the article became clearer. And with our follow-up books pilot, we went even bigger, both in the number and in the size of the files. Authors typically chose the service during the contract signing phase so that they can use the tool at the beginning of the drafting and at the preparation phase, as well as several months before handover. And this is for additional assistance in reviewing and editing a full book. Each digital editing run was a typical chapter of between 3,500 to 6,000 words. And with this tool, you can actually go up to 25,000 words. We found that most of the book authors worked on a chapter at a time, especially if they had co-authors working on the other chapters as well. The top areas of studies that were determined, that were determined by the tool itself were HSS, Humanities and Social Science, Mathematics and Computer Science, and Physical Science coming in at a close third. So how did these pilots go? Well, they were a huge success. At least 90% of the authors were happy with the improvements that the digital editing tool made to their manuscripts in both pilots. Through surveys, they expressed their delights at how much time and effort the tool saved them and the improved accuracy of the edits. So let's take a look at some of those highlights. We received a range of positive feedback from users asking to extend the pilot and for how the tool really helps someone that English was not their first or primary language. I've highlighted two that really stuck out to me, and that was that it finds issues that words editing tool would never do, and that compared with other software, it was much better. We also received a lot of great ideas on how to keep improving the model and our services. So going forward, we're going to plan on continuing to listen to our authors so that we can keep developing those and improving the tools to meet their needs. We are thrilled with the results of the pilots, but what about the editors? Did we meet their goals? Yes, we improved acceptance rate. We reduced the end-to-end turnaround time by streamlining the editorial workload. Editors saved precious time and money during the quality checks. And not only did they improve the author experience, but both pilots resulted in higher satisfaction for reviewers and editors as well. This can lead to attracting a broader author pool. Editors in the book pilot are now considering replacing aspects of copy editing in their own workflow as well. And these are all things that will easily translate to other publishers who are interested in this digital editing tool. And we want to end on a surprise. You're going to hear it first. We're using this forum at SSP to announce that we have an upcoming modality, an extension to AJ's digital editing, which is the Word add-in, Microsoft Word add-in. This add-in will be free for all digital editing users, both individual and commercial. So keep an eye out for an official announcement really soon. And with that, we're going to open it up for questions. Please note the QR code here and the URL at the bottom of the screen. This is where you're going to find more detailed information on the tool. And with that, we'll open it up. If you could, please come up to the mics. We are recording this session. So if you have any questions, please come on up.
I had a quick question. Thank you for your presentation. Is it possible using these services to tweak the model for journal-specific style guides?
So one of the benefits of the tool is that it actually keeps your formatting. It doesn't change the formatting in Word.
Formatting as well as kind of content specific, like
Yeah, it's literally just editing the text that's there. It's not changing it. It's not. It might make some suggestions here and there, but otherwise your formatting stays the same.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have some?
The other thing I was going to add though is as we move forward with working with more of our publishing groups, that's part of the feedback that we're getting is being able to adopt those style guides. And so we can do that in a number of different ways. One way is through if you have existing software that you use in your editorial workflow, we can plug in via an API and make sure that we can tweak it for your style guide. Otherwise, we can also work with you to do using our customer interface where we can work with your editors or your outreach team to have like onboarding that talks about the edits themselves and how that would fit into your style guide for your journal. So a little bit more of a lighter lift with sharing the style guide expectations, even if it's not fully integrating that into the edits themselves. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you for your talk. My name's Laura. I actually had two questions if I'm allowed. So the first was, are you able to describe for us, are there categories of types of edit the tool makes based on your data set? Are you able to kind of talk us through what the main types of edits it would make?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a number of different types of edits. We have your standard grammatical edits, so spelling, checking for grammatical issues with subject-verb agreement, tense, consistency, sentence structure, punctuation. But outside of that, we also have a level of edit that helps with readability and vocabulary specific to your area of study. And so that overall should elevate the style of the paper itself outside of just a grammar check. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And then, so my next question kind of following up on that second type of edit, so the more, I guess, like phraseology, syntax type.
Yeah.
Does the editing tool, is there a recommendation at the end if you feel like more extensive editing is required, that it would it make that edit? Would it prompt the author like, you know, we've made these changes, but we would actually recommend, you know, X, Y, and Z, or like what happens in those kind of examples?
Yeah, that's a great question. 2 points of clarification. So when the tool runs, everything is given as a suggested edit. And so one of the things that we hear often when it comes to AI, especially generative AI, is there's concern from both the journal as well as the author that this thing is writing the paper for you. We never want to do that. Instead, what we want to do is offer suggestions to what an author can change. And so as an author reviews the paper after the editing tool is run, they can accept or reject those suggestions. We do not have yet a summary of those edits at the end, and maybe a next level editing via a digital edit. Typically what we find when a manuscript requires almost another level of polishing is that it might be better to have human intervention or a professional edit at that point. And we can always work with the individual author or with the publishing group itself to do that. That is to come though. And we are excited about thinking about multiple tiers of the quality of digital editing that's available.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. This might spiral out into a couple questions. Can you clarify, did you say that in the pilot you did find that manuscripts were getting a higher rate of acceptance than before?
Yes, so when we first ran the languages assessment tool on the papers initially prior to digital editing, there was a 28% acceptance rate. And after that, it was 43%, I believe. 42%.
Okay, so using this tool, acceptance rates go up. Nothing about the science actually changes. It's just the readability. So that tells us that reviewers are sometimes, or maybe even editors, are rejecting works based not on the science, but on the editing. Do you see your tool as something that that individuals should go out and seek if they know they have language barriers? Or is this something that you see that editors, once it passes their desk and they want to send it out to reviewers, if they know it has readability issues, should they at that point offer this service before it goes to be read?
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be both. So when we first thought of this concept of developing digital editing, we thought about it at the individual researcher level. So we have it available for researchers to subscribe to and use on the daily, just like a Grammarly, but specifically for research publication. So in the publishing workflow, I think the best case scenario is that as someone is drafting, they're also polishing their writing as it happens ahead of submission. And then at the point of submission, if there are significant language changes, an editor might recommend, we see the quality of the science that's here. We see the value of this research. Let's go ahead and make a first pass at this paper and get it to another level of writing quality. That's where we see typically the most impact. Ahead of the review process, that could be worthwhile, but one of the things that is a question mark for us is how the author might react at that point if it's been accepted and it says, we have this level of significant changes. Sometimes we find it's better to have that polishing first, then accept and then move forward. Yeah.
Have you heard anything back from your publishing partners, I think Springer Nature, on this about, I guess, the idea that they're rejecting things not on the science, but on the readability of the manuscript?
Do you want to jump on that one?
We haven't addressed that yet with them.
Okay, just asking. Thank you.
I mean, it's a great question, and
really
it's a sore subject, if somebody's passing over a great opportunity, perhaps because of the quality of writing.
Yeah.
The thing I will point back to is AJE was founded, again, almost 2 decades ago for this very purpose, so that we can make research faster, fairer, and more accessible to everyone. And so what we want to do with any of our journal partners is that things are never rejected based on the research, but or things are not rejected on the quality of the English of the writing, but that all research is judged fairly and published fairly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just have, well, one is the tool customizable. I'm thinking of as far as particular language to a certain agency or company. Is that something we can input for it to search for and to recommend?
That's another great question. So we haven't tried that yet. In thinking about having perhaps a particular lexicon that would be specific to your area of study or for the journal, that is something that we could consider in future iterations of it. But at this point, we haven't done that. We typically find, because we have such a large data set, that we haven't had to customize. It's able to really pinpoint the specific language challenges of whatever area of study that the paper is written in. But if there's a specific use case or an idea that you have, we'd love to hear more about it and see if we could and possibly integrate that.
Okay, and then my
Yeah.
second question. I saw one of the reviews, of course, was saying this picks up things that Word does not, which, Word is many issues with. But does it pick up things as far as grammar in regards to homonyms like there? Does it find those kind of distinctions?
Yes, it does. And we find that base level of English writing is very, very accurate, as well as, of course, spelling and punctuation for more specific scientific terms. Yeah, so both and. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. I work at an academic institution, primarily with authors working in humanities and social sciences fields, so on monographs primarily. And I wonder what proportion of your user base comes from that area, and also whether you have any plans to do institutional subscriptions, or is that a model that you're kind of thinking about, or it's really at the author level or at the publisher level right now?
Great questions. I can jump in and then Greg can as well. So yes and yes. When it comes to the humanities, social sciences, in fact, with our books pilot with Springer Nature, the largest group that we had was within those areas of study. That said, we also are looking for more data to fill in for that, so we can continue to improve within those areas. So the tool is great for that. And I would say that is a primary focus for us for improvement within the next 6 months.
Okay.
When it comes to institutions, yes, we have a number of institutional partners, and we can set up access or preferred access for institutions, either based on a URL, an IP, or just a specific user base that you have, so that students, faculty members, researchers can access it within the institution and use it. We find that it has been a really great benefit a lot of times for,
I
for
bet. Thank you very
recruitment.
much.
Of course,
That
yeah.
sounds great.
I was just going to mention that I think it's roughly 30% were humanities and social sciences for the book pilot.
We have time for one more, otherwise. This was lovely. If you have more questions or would like to talk to Greg and I about other things that come to mind, or about with your journal or your institution, we'd love to talk to you about that. We'll be around. Please feel free to check out this specific page. If you provide your information, we'll send both this presentation as well as a white paper around AI questions and challenges within scholarly publishing.